Welcome to another episode of Seeing Them Live, a podcast featuring memorable concert stories from live music fans. Everyone has a concert story, and hopefully, one day, we'll hear yours.
He was on his way to a concert, and there were like 3 or 4 other members of the band that passed away as well. The drummer, an organist, and a guitar player, I believe, along with the pilot and a girl in front of the pilots. I was like I took a shot in the chest or something when I heard that happen. It was just devastating. It's like when people freaked out when they heard Elvis died or John Lennon got shot. It was like that to me.
Our guest today is Jose Rivera. Jose is the founder, manager, and lead vocalist for the band Five Guys Named Moe. In addition to vocals, Jose plays trumpet, flugelhorn, pocket trumpet, flute, bongos, congas, and timbals. His strong upper register horn playing dates back to his early days as a section leader and soloist for the United States Marine Corps. Jose has performed before U.S. presidents and numerous heads of state between the years 1972 and 1977. He has shared the stage with trumpet greats like Doc Severinsen and Alpert. Jose and the Moes, as they are referred to, play over 100 gigs a year at venues all over the Midwest. Jose, welcome to Seeing Them Live.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we also have my co-host and producer, Doug Florzak, here with us today.
Hi, Jose.
Hello, Doug.
Thanks for coming on, Jose. This is such a pleasure. I thought we would start out at the very beginning, the real beginning, dating all the way back to 4th grade. Was it the trumpet you started out on in 4th grade?
I started trumpet. What it was is even before 4th grade, I would run around the house because at that time, a group called Hirt, Alpert, and the Tijuana Brass were very popular.
Oh, yeah.
Trumpet thing. And I used to run around with a stick in my hand thinking it was a trumpet, pretend it was a trumpet. So my mother finally bought me a trumpet from a friend of mine for $25. Okay. And then I started playing along with records, the Hirt Alpert records, Tijuana Brass records. Then as time went on, I got into the Alpert records. I got into even Chicago when they debuted, started playing around with those records, played with, and then of course Chase came out, and that was just, and Bless went in tears as well, but Chase, my goodness. And I heard them, I went nuts, scared the crap out of me. I heard a guy play a trumpet so high. It was great. So I did that, and then I went to the Marine Corps, took an audition, and they accepted me in there. And so I was the soloist and section leader for the Marine Corps for 4 years. So it was great.
But before you went off to the Marines, like literally the day before, you were in Kansas City, right?
That's correct.
And being a big Bill Chase fan and his band called Chase, they happened to be playing in town right before you were going off to the Marine Corps to basic training, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it was the day before. I'm actually originally from Kansas, but my hometown's 130 miles west of Kansas, right by Kansas State University. And I was going up there to get processed and go in, and I happened to find out that they were in concert at a nightclub in Kansas City. And I went, oh man, here's my one shot, you know. And at 17 years old with a baby face and no facial hair, it was like, how the hell am I going to do this? But anyway, I forgot how I got in, but I got in. I sat way back in the corner in the darkness. They couldn't see me, you know, when they did their first set. And so that was good. We did that. So they got done with the first set. People left. I didn't leave. The band came right back to the back of the room. I wasn't sitting in a booth. I went, oh my God, I'm dying, you know? And so they looked at me and go, how'd you get in here? And I went, well, you guys are my boys. You guys are the guys that I'm doing. I'm a trumpet player. It says, and I leave tomorrow for the Marine Corps. And then one trumpet player, Jerry Van Bury, goes, really? Well, yeah. Well, I was in the Navy. I played for the trumpet in the Navy. I went, no kidding. He says, yeah. So we stuck a conversation up that way. And so I started just hanging out with those guys. He goes, you're with us. You're okay. You can stay. I said, thank you. Then Bill Chase himself came up to the table and was talking to the guys. And who's this? Well, I introduced myself and stuff. And I had him sign the little card that was on the tables that said 2-drink minimum. Okay. so I had them all autograph the card and stuff. So I got to watch their second show. And it was just a wonderful, most wonderful thing. And Jerry Van Bury himself, the trumpet player, he really inspired me a lot to be the trumpet player I became. So it was very cool to hang out with that band at that time.
Yeah, that's quite a story. Since you were a youngster in elementary school, listening to them, and then, yeah, getting to hang out with them and getting their autographs and such, just by chance you happened to get into that club. I mean, that's crazy, because it was probably, 18 at least?
That's not true. It's 21 because they were on the Missouri side of Kansas City.
Okay.
Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri. So it was 21 then, and I still don't know how I did it, but I did it, you know. You find a way, right? You find a way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Not too long after that, unfortunately, tragedy occurred with the band. I guess this was like August 9th, 1974. So what, about a year after you had kind of hung out with them and met them, that a plane went down.
Yeah, I went down in Iowa. He was on his way to a concert, and there were like 3 or 4 other members of the band that passed away as well. The drummer and organist and the guitar player, I believe, along with the pilot and a girl in front of the pilots. I was like, I took a shot in the chest or something when I heard that happen. It was just devastating. It's like when people freaked out when they heard Elvis died or John Lennon got shot. It was like that to me.
Yeah, that must have had quite an impact on you. Then I was reading, like you had said, 40 years later, they had this reunion concert. Literally, it was like about 40 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, in Chicago. It was crazy.
So the surviving members, they got together, I guess, probably with some other guest musicians, right?
Well, they only had one guest musician. I forgot his name right now, but he's a famous trumpet player as well. And he was doing Bill's parts in those songs. And all those other guys did come back for the reunion. Now, Jerry Van Blair since then had passed away due to an illness that I don't recall what the illness was. So a lot of the former members were there, and the guys they put together were there, and even Jerry Van Blair's 2 daughters were there. So that was interesting to show respect and stuff like that. And it was in a small club, actually, again, in downtown Chicago. And the thing was, my wife and I went, as we walked in there, we got tickets for the second show. So they come in there in the middle of the first show. I went, holy cow. And there's nobody at the door. Nobody at the door. I'm like, oh, we're going in. So we went in. Nobody said boo. So here I am, 40 years later, in the same scenario I was at 17. I get into the club. It's like, are you kidding me? And then after the show, people found out, and there was such a small club, there was no dressing room. So the band hung out in the club at the bar. Well, where do you think I was and my wife? At the bar. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got to talk to all of them, hang out with all these guys, which is great. Got a lot of pictures, just talking about my experiences and stuff and how I play and of course, Mr. Van Blair's daughters there. I went up to them, told them how he was an inspiration for me. And they got a little misty eyed about it and said, thank you so much. We're friends to this day and communicate through Facebook, his daughters still, which is kind of cool.
Was the guest trumpet player, was it Eric Miyashiro?
That's him. Thank you. Eric Miyashiro. That's him. Yep. Everybody was so very cordial, very nice. Gigi Shin, the second lead singer that was there, who since has passed away due to illness, he was standing at the bar. He didn't look good, though, but he had a cane he was working with. And I just got to start talking to him. He said, how you doing, young man? I said, how are you, sir? I said, I'm just big fan. I know you hear that all the time, but I'm serious. You have no idea. And I told my story about the first time. And so that's what they all got a kick out of, the story of the first story. So that gave me credibility.
Wow, that's a great story. I love that.
I'll tell you one last thing. The odd thing about it was some of the other trumpet players, like the alumni guys too, I was amazed at how short a couple of them were in height. It kind of stunned me because they look so big in their photographs with all the hair and everything, and looking 70s hippies looking thing, So yeah, so it was kind of ironic to see one guy was only 5'5". I'm like, dang.
Yeah, back then the hair probably added another 3 or 4, right? Yeah, Jose. So you also had mentioned that you played with Doc Severinsen, who was he was a band leader for Johnny Carson's band for many years. And was that when you were in the military?
That's correct. Like I said, we toured over 100,000 air miles a year and also close to 300 events a year too. And so we did all these kind of things. They were state fairs. They were all the ball parades, pre-games for ball parades, pre-games for pro sports, whether it's football, baseball, hockey, basketball. We did that. Different winter festivals, that kind of stuff. This was at the Michigan State Fair. We did this. And he was coming up and he played 2 songs with us. And that was cool. It was just the idea of seeing Doc Severinsen there. And he was such a great player to do that. So it was a big thrill for us. And that was like the first time outside of C and Chase that I got to see someone who was, again, somewhat of my trumpet hero as well. I mean, any guy that was famous for playing trumpet at that time, whether it's Doc Severinsen, Alpert, Blood, Sweat, and Tears guys, and Chicago guys, Lee Longlane, and any of those guys, they were my heroes. So these guys, they were big influences for me in my horn playing.
And then a similar situation with Hirt, you just mentioned at the Superdome in New Orleans.
Yes, we played the grand opening of the Superdome with Hirt. Okay. We only did one song when we played the national anthem.
Okay.
but I played it with him. Okay. So, and so we got to do that. And he had a club down on Bourbon Street, and it was so expensive to get into that place. But we saved my money and finally got to sit in and go to the club and see him one time and got to say hi, shook hands and stuff, and told him I was there for the grand opening. Oh, that was great, kid, because I was a kid, I had an attempted mustache going, they could have arrested me for attempted mustache at the time, but I had that baby face. So, but it was great to do that. And we also got a chance to we did a country special with Roy Clark at one time. And I think it was in Nashville, but that was like to the lighter half of my service tenders. So, and Jimmy Dean, as a matter of fact, he was a guest. So Sausage King.
Right. So it sounds like you guys traveled a lot. You said 100,000 air miles.
Yeah. For 4 years. Yeah. Played for Ford, Nixon, Carter, a lot of dignitaries, all the old guys, Rockefellers, Barry Goldwater, those kind of guys from the past. Here's a crazy one. I'm playing for Gerald Ford in New Orleans. We just got doing our concert. I had to use the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom and washing my hands. And as I turn around, who comes in? George Wallace, Governor George Wallace from Alabama. A lot of people may not know who he is. He's one of the biggest racists that ever lived. Okay. And to see him in a wheelchair because he got shot, I was in stun. Oh my God, Governor Wallace. He goes, "How you doing, Marine?" He shook my hand and I just kept going. So it was kind of a weird thing because he was always in the news for something, so it was never ever any good.
So your band, the Five Guys Named Moe, I mean, I know you guys play a lot, but the 100,000 air miles, like how often is that? Like,
no, the Moes don't do that. I did that in the Marine Corps, not with the Moes.
Right. But I'm saying, like, how many gigs is that? Like, about, would you say?
At least 2 to 3 a month, maybe, if not more.
Yeah, it seems like a lot to cover that amount of miles.
It is. And we did 4 Mardi Gras. We did 4 of those. And you have a parade every week, every night of the week there. So you're doing those gigs, those every night. That's a show.
Okay.
And those parades, man, they killed it because they would start at 5 and you'd march up and down these streets and around and up and down and all around. You wouldn't get done till 10:30, 11 at night. And you're toast at that time, and we were statues. You had to be statues. So that was kind of tough. Yeah, it's a lot of gigs.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
We did state fairs. We do 7-day gigs at the state fairs, the Texas State Fair, and wherever we might be, we do that. We're there for the week. So those are all shows.
And so that was during your time then while you were in the Marine Corps, though, basically the whole time.
Right. For the Moes, we only do we used to do 100 show a year with day jobs. But back in the late 90s, I'd not dropped it down to like 80, 85 a year.
Okay. And I was listening to an interview with you not too long ago, and I think you guys are playing even more than 100 shows early on, weren't you?
A little bit, not a lot, just really at 100. We would have like 12 to 17 shows a month, especially during the summer.
Wow. Yeah. I imagine that's busy. Then one more concert story before we get to your band, Five Guys Named Moe. You had listed as the most surprising concert was at the Eagles show where, was it Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi? Or?
It was a year they were filming the Blues Brothers in Chicago.
Okay.
And they were at the stadium in Chicago. The Eagles were at the stadium. Jackson Browne opened for them. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, here comes out. He says, "Hey, we got some special friends to come out." They come out, the Blues Brothers. And they sang Soul Man or something, I think it was. It was crazy. Just one song, the place went nuts. Because everybody knew they were in town filming. So it was kind of a neat treat. And then years later, I saw the Blues Brothers in concert at Poplar Creek.
Oh.
They were in concert out there. They put on a great show.
Yeah, I remember. They used to tour.
Yep.
But yeah, I never did get to see them. So we want to talk about your band, which I think I heard you in an interview say you guys formed it. Was it 1988?
I started in 1988. I had 4 neighbors across the street from my old house. They were producers for a cabaret gambling thing at the local parish. Okay. And everybody was involved. I was peer pressured to get involved. Okay. I don't want to do that. Well, I said, how about if I get some guys together, we'll jam some songs, play some music. What do you think? Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. You can do that. Well, now I'm a room director. I don't want to be a room director. So we learned 12 songs. Honest to God, 12 songs. And we were the holding rooms for the big cabaret show. So they would rotate in and out. People would, after our first set, they go to the cabaret, come out, new group come in. Well, after the first set, okay, good, thanks, we'll be back. Go see the grape show. Nobody left. Nobody wanted to leave. There were people waiting outside. I'm like, you got to go. No, we don't want to leave. So I turned around to the guy. I said, boys, I think we have something here.
Yeah.
So I made the decision. I said, look, here's the deal. First of all, a band has to have a boss. There's no democracy. It's a business. So if you want to play out, you got to know what it takes to do that. So I'm the leader. I'm in charge. It's what's said. Now you can either be part of it or not be part of it. So tell me now, don't waste my time. Everybody went with us. It was great. And we're starting our 40th year together.
Hi, this is Doug, producer of Seeing Them Live. We're going to take a short break from this episode to hear from some of our friends.
Hey everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike
With the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast, coming to you from the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66 in Joliet, Illinois.
where once a week we are interviewing local musicians and singer-songwriters, and the podcast itself covers a wide range of topics, including, but not limited to, the history of rock and roll in Chicago, the current state of the scene, and the challenges and opportunities facing musicians today.
So join us every Tuesday for a new exciting episode of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Hi, I'm Jessica Ann Katina. I've always loved music and surround myself with it every day. I've sung in choirs, took digital musical classes in college, and used to work in radio. To further share my knowledge and experience with others, I created this podcast, Music Notes with Jess, in 2019. I'm so fortunate of the listener growth and hearing back from some of the celebs I discussed in past episodes. That's why now I'm ready to expand. So let's have fun taking weekly music notes of throwbacks, modern hits, and media. Thank you. Talk to you soon on Music Notes with Jess.
What was the last really great rock and roll book you read? How about a good rock and roll documentary? Well, that's why I started the Rock Talk Studio podcast, the place to go for recommendations of new rock and roll books and documentaries. Give me 20 minutes and the Rock Talk Studio podcast will get you caught up on the world of rock and roll books and docs from every possible angle and leave you with a no-doubt decision on where to spend your time and money. Want to know what to read next or which film to add to your watch list? Well, here comes all the top recommendations and hidden gems you don't want to miss. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. The Rock Talk Studio podcast, your ultimate guide to discovering the best new rock and roll books and documentaries.
Hi, this is Jamie James on Seeing Them Live. We all have our first concert stories, so please share them. We'd love to hear yours.
Now, back to the show.
In that story too, Jose, because the people didn't want you to leave, but you only knew the 12 songs. So you guys played the 12 songs again.
That's what we did. I said, really know 12 songs? I say, play them again. I'm okay.
Yeah.
It really did happen. Yeah, that's funny.
That reminded me, I had read this biography about Led Zeppelin. The same kind of thing. They're on their first tour, first album, they play, the place goes nuts. It's all the songs they know. So they played them all again. And it was a 3-hour concert, but they played them all again. And nobody cared. They loved it. So it kind of reminded me of that story. You guys repeated the set.
It was crazy. It was a great time. And then I said, I want to play out. Honestly, I kind of know what it takes to do that. So we're not just going to go in a garage or a basement and have beers and party and have a good time and do that and not play out. No, I want to play out. So that's kind of where it went. And it's been working ever since. I've been very blessed. Very blessed by all that.
Yeah, because you guys are named the best band in the Southland. It's like a local newspaper.
3 years in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years in a row. And I was reading you play all over the Midwest.
I call it the World Tour, Charles. I said, what it is that it's the World Tour of the tri-state area.
Yeah.
So we go to the Quad Cities, we go to Peoria, we go to Wisconsin, we go to Michigan and Indiana. And that's pretty far. If we go further south, Springfield would be about as far as we go.
Because I was looking at your website and you already have quite a number of gigs booked all the way out to, many months this year. But what I was going to mention, Jose, is you're the leader. You take this very seriously. Everybody in the band has to take it seriously. And so I was listening to some of your recordings. I listened to LA Woman and some of your other recordings. And to me, I'm not a musician. When I listen to those recordings, you guys you're really bringing it. And I did see some video as well. It's like a full sound. It's big. and you could feel the party atmosphere in the song you're playing. You guys bring like everything to that song. And even though it was a Doors song, you kind of made it your own, you know?
They say we mow them up.
Yeah. So you want to talk about that?
That's what we do. We do decide what songs we do as a group, but then I kind of have to make the final decision because I don't want to do something that every other band is doing, number one. And number two, it's got to be something the crowd likes, what the non-musician likes. If you want to play out, if you want to have gigs, you're going to check your ego at the door. I mean, I've got great players in my band, killer players, guys that, graduates that all of them teach, all of them teach. One guy's a graduate of Berkeley even. You got to just make a decision whether you want to play out, whether you just want to be the artist. You can be both, but you got to know your limits where to go. And so I'm a firm believer, and you got to promote, and that's another big deal. I carry flyers with me all the time. I hand them out to total strangers. I mean, it got to the point when we first started, my wife and son got kind of upset because we were getting noticed everywhere. I meant to gas, hey, it's the most. Can we get a picture? That kind of thing. So I don't take that for granted, man. You want to do that? I'll take as many as you want. You go right ahead, but it's a business thing. And I think that's what a lot of bands fail to realize is that you got to check your ego at the door, man. You just can't do that. I'm sure you're a great player. I'm sure you do all this stuff, these wonderful things, but that's not what the people, they want to dance. They want to party. If you can't bring that, you're not going to get rebooked. Or if you don't have the butts in the seats because of that, because the clubs and venues, it's a business for them as well. You're only as good as how many people you have in the crowd. No matter how good a musician you are, if you don't have people in those seats, you won't get rebooked. It's just that simple.
I can vouch for your keyboard player, Jim Lunsford.
I heard that.
Absolutely phenomenal. He's played with my band, Wrought Iron Soul, a couple of times. And it's funny, the first time we ended up playing with him, we were playing at Q Bar, which is,
I know that.
It's a chain, it's a restaurant, combination restaurant, bar, and performance venue, because they usually have nice stages and everything in addition to the bar and the restaurant. And so we were booked there. And our drummer at the time, this is on the day of the gig, okay, during the day, he calls us and we have a conference call. And he says, guys, there's this guy, this keyboard player. He'd like to play with us. And trust me, he's really great. And we're like, oh my God, it's like, we've never played with this guy before. We've never practiced with him before. It was a big risk, but he convinced us, our drummer. And so all we did was we sent him our set list. And he showed up and we had dinner with him and we talked a little bit over dinner before the gig about changes to some of the arrangements from what the original artist did. He only had to hear that once. Absolute perfection when he came and played. Was just fantastic. And even threw in some vocals. We didn't ask him to do that on some of the songs. And it was just a pure joy to play with. He's like one of the most phenomenal local musicians that I've ever played with. And we ended up playing with him a couple more times after that. If I ever get a chance, I'd love to steal him from your band. But but I realize that's a tall order. And that's just one of your guys. So I'm sure the others are just as good. And I've seen you guys play. So it really does help to have committed quality players in a band.
It's true. And that's a great story. Jim is a great guy. He's a great musician. And I even have him doing a couple of leads on songs, on vocals. He is a top shelf musician without a doubt. My guitar player, his name is Frank Capek. He was with the group called The Kind back in the 80s and had a hit record and toured the country. He was with a group called Lovecraft as well. And he played with Jimmy Rogers, blues great, Buddy Guy, Muddy Waters. He's played with all those guys. He's a known guitar player on the Southwest side. Bass player is a Berkeley School of Music graduate. He lives in Plainfield. He's a phenomenal drummer too, by the way. And my bass player, he lives in Bolingbrook. He's the newest member of the band. He was in the Army as well as a musician, and he also went on some cruise ships for several years. Actually, he was a trombone player on the cruise ships, but he also plays bass and brings vocals to it. So I'm trying to get the band back to a 4-part harmony time vocal situation we had that years ago, and it would just kill. And I'm glad to get that back. So we're working on trying to get that nailed down like it used to be, and it'll be fine. But right, the music's tight as it ever will be. We wouldn't be anywhere after all these years either without our fans, Moe heads. Without the Moe heads, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. We wouldn't be known as much as we're known in the Southwest side. We wouldn't get the cool seating in restaurants sometimes, or anything like that. But I'm so blessed as the leader and founder that I've been able to do it. I would never have thought in a million years that I'm still doing this in the 40th year. And I thank all the guys who were in the bands. I'm the only original left. And I want to thank all the guys on this forum, whoever was in the band and did that, because I had like 30 guys through the band in all these years. Come in, come out, come in, come out, or even come for a gig and come out, that kind of thing. So it's been quite a ride. We're not done yet either. So I'm very happy about it. So my wife keeps asking me, "You ready to retire yet?" I went, "Nah." I think when they stop coming to our shows, I think they'll know that then.
Yeah, Jose, I wanted to talk to you about the Moe heads, and obviously the music's great, and you guys pour everything into it. Is there any other thing you do to cultivate that or to grow that?
Well, sure, we do that. Well, first of all, we did a lot of festivals that helped us generate our following by doing festivals, concerts in the park, things of that nature is how that works. And then they'll come to the clubs and see it too. At each club show that we're at, during a break, I don't sit down. The other guys go take a break, sit down, have a beer, eat, whatever. I don't. I go to every table and thank people for coming. Give them a flyer. This is our next show. And tell your friends about us. Bring one and like us on Facebook. Every table in the venue I'll make during that break. That's how important it is. Promotion doesn't rest, never stops. And the venues could take a lesson on that too. Venues have to promote as well. It's got to be a team sport. And it's a shame that a lot of venues don't do that. Put your name on a marquee and they think that's all they got to do. Needs more than that too.
Yeah, they expect you to bring everybody in. I think I heard you on interviews say, "Yeah, well, I'm bringing my people. Are you bringing yours?"
You heard that. That's awesome. That's my big line now.
I think that was the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's just true though. You're in trouble as a musician when you walk into a venue and they go, "Hey, you guys, great to see you. You got a lot of people coming?" And you hear that line, that's the phrase that kills. That makes you say, "Man, maybe I should just go home." Because it's solely relied on the band for a draw, and that's a place you don't come back to. It's got to be 50-50. And it's just amazing how many venues don't promote, just don't get it. And then they sing the blues about nobody there.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't even put it on their Facebook page or any of their social media.
That's right. They don't, any social thing, nothing. They don't even have a mailing of themselves together. All they want to do is Facebook. It shows pictures of food.
Right.
Pictures of food. Never show the stage, never show the band, never show whatever else is going on at that venue, whether it's a bar, whatever, because you want to give them the whole experience. You would think you want the whole experience, not just food. Although it's important, but you got to do more than that. How bad do you want to do this? It's just amazing that I see that so many guys do this. They're open a club, try this, and they're great for maybe 6 months, a year if they're lucky, and then they close. They do the marketing and the work background to promote it. Or they're their own best customer, and so are their friends, and that don't work either.
Jose, what are some of your favorite clubs to play at around the Chicago area and other surrounding states?
I enjoy playing several of them. We do big ones, small ones like this. CD and Me is one we love to appear at in Frankfurt. We also play, oddly enough, we play a place called North of Maple, which is kind of nice. We enjoy that. We play even a small venue called Cousins, which is down the street from there. That's just a gas all the time. We're in Indiana at Buddy and Pals. We go to there. We're going to go to Tailgaters here in Bolingbrook here soon too. Valley Doyle, like I said, and Downers. And then we do a lot of veterans organizations too, VFWs, American Legions.
Now the band Five Guys Named Moe, there's more than 5 guys, right?
No, we had 5. I started the band with 6 when I started it. And our logo is a hand with 6 fingers. So you got some old folklore there, okay? But the thing about it is I started with 6, and in the 90s, I downsized to 5 because I had 2 guitar players, and I realized that although it was great having a rhythm and a lead can also do the rhythm, and the rhythm can also do the lead, and that means more dough for the guys. And currently my guy's funny today as well. A lot of them, this is how they make their living. So I take that very seriously too. I want to make sure that they get paid and they're not getting $20 a guy or something. That's not going to fly. So I'll turn down shows if they don't want to meet our threshold of what we need to have.
Okay.
We'll get a booking somewhere at some point. We do work with a lot of agents throughout the Chicago area as well over the years. I think that's the other thing about being around so long. We're just very blessed in that respect because we have a name and people recognize the name. So we'll get a booking a lot of times at new venues without having to go through rigmarole of an audition or set up with another 2-band gig or that kind of thing. So that's always a nightmare because we're a big production, keyboards and drums and my percussion, and then a bass and a guitar. So it's a pretty big stage setup sometimes. And we try to downsize it, but you don't always get that luxury. Sometimes I'm on the floor. I'm not on stage. I'm on the floor.
Because I've seen a video of you playing, I guess, the bongos or congas.
I play bongos, congas, and timbales. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the congas and bongos I always bring those out, but sometimes I can't bring the timbales because there's no space. There's no room to bring. And there's extra stuff I got to carry.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. That would be. Anything else, Jose, that you'd like to mention or cover or plug?
I'd like to thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been fun. I enjoyed it, and good meeting you guys finally and stuff. And then we have Doug and I have a connection with Jim. That's kind of cool. But yeah, check out our website, fiveguysnamedmoe.com. You got to spell the word five out, F-5-E-E, namedmoe.com. And we have 2 Facebook sites, so check that out as well. I got other stories, but I'll leave them for another time.
Yeah, so check out Five Guys Named Moe. And if you do, I'm sure you'll meet Jose, because he's going to come up and say hi and give you a flyer probably, right?
Please, always come up to say hello to the stage. Everybody's welcome. We'd love to have you out. Be one of the many Moe heads. The Moe heads are also very friendly people.
Jose, thanks so much for being on Seeing Them Live. I really appreciate it. Love your stories. And we'll hopefully meet up one of these days.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. It's been an honor and good talk with you guys. We look forward to seeing you soon at the Moe Show.
That's a wrap for our show. I want to thank today's guests for sharing their concert stories with us. Make sure to check out our show notes at seeingthemlive.com for links to websites, photos, and other artifacts mentioned in the show. I also want to thank my producer, Doug Florzak. The theme music for the show was composed by Doug and is featured on his album, Flagstone. If you have a concert story you'd like to share on our podcast, please visit our website and click on Become a Guest in the main menu. Then fill out the form and click the Submit button. If you seem like a good fit for the show, we'll contact you via email. I guess it's time to head for the exits. We'll see you next time on Seeing Them Live.